All right. Well, good evening, everybody. Let me adjust my microphone here. If you want to grab a seat, we appreciate everybody coming this evening to our regularly scheduled Zoning Advisory Commission meeting for, let's see, it's April 6th, 2022. So I call this meeting to order. Sheena, would you take roll, please? Or Travis? Excuse me, sorry, guys. Jason, thank you.
Christ,
Here.
Kemp,
Here.
Leffelholtz is absent. Mulligan,
Here.
Norton,
Here.
Russell,
Here.
Zucchero.
Here.
Travis.
All right, very good. Can you confirm we're in compliance with the Iowa Open Meetings Law, please?
Yes, we are.
Very good. So commissioners, in front of you are our minutes from the, let's see here, March 2nd meeting. At this point, I would entertain any modifications or a motion for approval.
Motion to approve the March 2nd, 2022 minutes.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. If you please take roll.
Kemp,
Aye.
Norton, Russell,
Aye.
Zucchero,
Aye.
Christ,
Aye.
Mulligan.
Aye. All right, very good. So for those of you that are coming in, and maybe those of you sitting right now, I do understand one of the topics maybe of discussion here is pertaining to Wolf Road, the rezoning there. What I will tell you is at 3 o'clock today, the city had received an email from the applicant, and I won't read all of it, but it does say, apologize for the inconvenience, but unforeseen challenges with this location have caused us to pursue other opportunities. So they have pulled that. So for those of you that are here again regarding it's item number 2, the rezoning applicant being Horizon Development for the rezoning of at the end of Wolf Road, that has been pulled off of our agenda. So we will not be proceeding forward with that this evening. So I wanted to let you know. So those of you that are here, wanted to let you know in advance. Okay, so this evening then, we have got 2 action items and we've got now 2 public hearings. And so what we're going to do, so for the applicant that's here under your, whatever topic you happen to be of the action item, we'll ask you to come forward, state your name, state your address, and what it is that you're looking for from the commission. So why don't we dive in? Our first item is let's see, 1363 Iowa Street regarding the, let's see here, the simple subdivision is the request, it appears. So do we have somebody here to represent that particular item?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'm going to have to recuse myself from the 2 action items in the first public hearing for tonight's agenda.
Very good.
I'm going to be out there.
Let's see, Shayna, so I can be short for the other commissioners here. We do need 4
That is
votes.
correct.
Okay.
We do need 4 affirmative votes to pass these forward, yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Not a problem. First of all, I just wanted to say good evening to everyone here tonight. My name is Terry Kelker. I'm with Beasing and Associates at 1212 Locust Street here in Dubuque. I'm representing Robert and Jackie Yeager. They had come in and asked if I could subdivide one of their properties, simple division. So you see in your packet there, we've got a plat that we put together, Yeager and Yeager Place, both Lot 1 and Lot 2. Basically, there was 2 lots to begin with, and we ended up with 2 lots. One lot is smaller than it was originally. Reason being was more for parking stalls and how they were going to utilize them for one of the buildings out there versus the other. So Lot 1, as you can see on your packet of information there, is a larger lot with a larger building, more tenants in it. And Lot 2 has got fewer naturally. And they both have access to both Loris for Lot 1, and then for Lot 2 would be off Iowa Street. So I'm here to answer any questions about the survey portion of it. And if you have any further questions after that for details of the actual logistics of why they did what they did, I'll let Robert answer those questions.
All right, any questions for the applicant while he's here? I guess I need to ask, so there was let's see, a bit of a story from the applicant. So I understand they're actually looking to sell the property, is that right?
That's correct.
So they've
I
got,
think at this point, and Robert can answer that question too, that it has been sold.
no, that's okay. That's okay. All right, anything else for the applicant? Okay, so with that, we'll move on. You can have a seat. We'll move on to the staff report.
Yes, Sheena Moon, Associate Planner. So the plat before you this evening is a simple subdivision. Generally, simple subdivisions are reviewed at the staff level, city planner level. But in this instance, the applicant is requesting a waiver from bulk standards, bulk requirements in the code, and therefore the code does require that the zoning advisory commission be the reviewing authority for this application. It does include two separate parcels, so 1363 Iowa Street, which is existing property with 3 residential units on it, and then the 140 Loris, which is a 7-unit multifamily building. The Iowa Street property currently takes access, obviously, frontage along Iowa Street, as well as you can see in the image here from the alleyway. The applicants are proposing to subdivide about approximately 855 square feet of the rear side of 1363 Iowa Street and reallocate that to the Loris Boulevard property. Part of what they've conveyed to staff is they're doing this in an effort to reallocate some of the parking from the Iowa Street property to the Loris Boulevard property. And so through that, they did actually submit a parking variance request, which was reviewed by the Zoning Board of Adjustments and was approved by them on March 24th. The reason, again, they're here today is to request approval for the plat and then also a waiver from the bulk standards. The 140 Loris Boulevard property has some non-conforming bulk standards, but those will be unaffected essentially by this subdivision. The property at 1363 does have existing nonconformities, and there's a chart that was provided in the staff report, as you can see on the screen here also. The 3 bulk regulations that they're requesting a waiver from are the lot area, lot coverage, and the rear yard setback. And as you can see, we've highlighted in red here, obviously the code required, and then what's existing, and then the red is the areas where they are essentially, for requesting that bulk regulation to further, I guess, extend the nonconformity, if you will. The property at 1363, as I mentioned earlier, takes access on Iowa and the alley. There is also an easement that runs north from the property. And if you pull up the staff report, Travis, in the exhibits, you can see that there's a north-south running in that image, actually, right there, that works. So just to what would be the east of the Loris property, yes, right there. That is a access easement to this property at Iowa Street. So that property would maintain 2 points of access is the purpose for articulating that. The subdivision would not affect any of the residential uses, which are in keeping with zoning as well as with what the comprehensive plan does indicate for use in this area. To date, we have not received any public input or feedback one way or another from any members of the public. And with that, staff is available to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you, Sheena. Any questions for Sheena specific to this? All right, very good. Well, with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we recommend approval of the Jaeger and Jaeger's Place subdivision, subject to waiving the bulk regulations for lot area, lot coverage, and rear yard setbacks for the property at 1363 Iowa Street.
Great, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Jason, if you would take roll.
Russell,
Aye.
Zucchero,
Aye.
Christ,
Aye.
Kemp, Mulligan.
Aye. Okay, so motion passes. It will go to City Council on April 18th. Very good. All right, so we will move on to the second item. This is a minor subdivision we're requesting on 1659 Iowa Street. Terry, is that you as well? Okay, come on up.
Okay, again, my name is Terry Kelker with Beasing and Associates here in Dubuque, and I was asked by Tom Kelzer to divide his property. He actually has an existing apartment building that he wanted divided up into individual townhouse units, and such that we ended up with 4 units, as you can see in there, the plat for Jackson Park Townhouse. At this point, there is a common wall inside the building itself along each of these individual units, and that's how we divided it. At this point in time, as you can see, there's access off of Iowa Street for those, each of those particular units. And I know with the ordinances that we were working with, there is a substandard as far as the frontage for each of these units compared to what the zoning is asking for. So that's why we're here tonight.
Okay, very good, Terry. Thank you. Any questions for our applicant this evening? Okay, thank you, Terry.
Thanks.
Sheena, turn it over to you.
Sure, yes, thank you. So this is a minor subdivision request, which the applicant is creating 3 or more parcels, therefore defining it as a minor subdivision. And again, seeking a waiver of bulk regulations. The property, as Terry articulated, it currently contains 1 structure, which are side-by-side residential units. They're seeking to subdivide that into 4 individual townhomes. The lots would be non-conforming with respect to the street frontage requirement, which the code requires that they have at least 16 linear feet of frontage per unit on a property, on a parcel. And in this instance, again, there's a chart provided in the staff report. You'll see that they are falling a little bit short of that requirement for each of the townhome properties. Therefore, they're requesting a waiver from the bulk requirements for that. Staff has not received any public input for this subdivision request, and we're available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Sheena. Any questions regarding the staff report? All right, very good. I'll entertain a motion then.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the subdivision for, what do we got? The minor subdivision for Jackson Park Townhouse plat, waiving the lot frontage for lots 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Okay,
And that?
thank you. We have a motion and a second. Jason, if you would take roll.
Zakaro,
Aye.
Christ. Aye. Kemp,
Aye.
Russell,
Aye.
and Mulligan.
Aye. All right, that motion passes, and that will go to the city council on April, good grief, I wrote the 4th, April 18th as well. All right, so that does it for our action items. So we're going to move on to our first public hearing. So the way this will work is our applicant will come up, they'll state their name, they'll state their address, what they're here for, and then we will open it up to the public as well at that point. So with that, is our applicant here for the amended planned unit development at 255 JFK Road?
Present.
Howdy.
Good evening. My name is Pat Norton. I'm with Beasing and Associates. Our address is 1212 Locust Street here in town. Tonight I'm here to represent Fruit Development and Collins Community Credit Union in a request to revise their PUD that more or less encompasses what we can just refer to as the former Shopko site. Collins Community Credit Union has purchased one of the 3 lots that former lot was subdivided into. And in doing so, in the design of their building, we've found a few things that don't necessarily conform to the PUD as it was originally written for the old Shopko building. And they're asking if they could revise that. As you can see, well, it's up on the screen now, the lot they've actually purchased is essentially the footprint minus a little on the, I guess that would be the east side of the building. that is essentially was the footprint of the former Shopko building. Their intent is to put in a much smaller footprint inside that lot and add parking and a drive-through lane for their, for the credit union. In doing so, we realized that the tenant had wished, or Collins Community Credit Union has desired to place a 3-story building on this lot. And in doing so, by the time the architectural renderings and everything else happened, we realized that we were actually quite a bit taller than well, originally thought we were a lot taller than we are, but than the existing, or than the ordinance would allow, the PUD would allow. What we've done is we prepared a few different drawings, and what we're asking is if we could amend the first amendment would be to modify the 40-foot maximum building height to 50-foot. The reason, I believe it, is 50-foot what we settled on, Sheena? Is 50-foot what we?
Yes, 50
Okay.
feet is what's.
Originally, we were asking for 58, then we realized that by definition of building height, our building is technically 42 feet in the front in lieu of what we originally thought was going to be 50 feet, or 58 feet, or there's a parapet wall and some different architectural features on top to hide mechanical units and everything else. But in the definition of the ordinance, it defines building height as the ground elevation on the front to the essentially bottom of the structure. So that's where the 42 feet comes from. There's going to be 3 floors at 14 apiece, which comes up to 42 feet, puts us to the bottom of the structure of the roof, and then the mechanical units, and therefore will be above that. The additional 8 foot that was originally in play here is that's on the, just again so I get my bearings straight here, on the south, well, we'll call it the south side of the building, but on the rear of the building, the grade steps down quite a bit across this lot from JFK going back towards Wacker Drive. And in order to accommodate this, the architects have dropped down a vestibule on that rear side by a 6-foot floor difference. So there's an additional 6 foot in building height on that rear side. So that's kind of where some of these round numbers are coming from. One thing, we've done a couple things to mitigate this additional building height, which now is only 2 feet from the front as defined, but even with the parapet and the other things, the former Shopko building was previously set back from the right-of-way line at 70 feet. What we've done is we've pushed our building back by adding additional bay of parking. So there's an additional, well, we're going back to 151 feet. Roughly a bay of parking is about 62, plus we have some additional green space and walks and different things in front of the building. So that makes up that additional space. We are shifting the building away from the right-of-way. The lot does slope down quite a bit from JFK down to our building. So by sliding it back and dropping it down, we're doing this in some aspects to control the impact, the visual impact of the building on the right-of-way. It would still maintain a good presence from the rear that can be seen from around, but yet we're hoping to, by placement of the building where we did, to, again, minimize those impacts. That would be our first request for the modification. And the second modification to the PUD we're requesting is in regards to the signs. The current plan for this building is for Collins Community Credit Union to occupy 1 floor and lease out the additional 2. In doing so, they have they've designed the signage for the building such that there's not a lot of room really left for the tenants, and there's actually been a full signage package submitted. So in doing so, that we figured out that, hey, wait a minute, we're also violating the maximum signage allowance for the building, and we were hoping just to get that modified as well, as long as we were here. So I unfortunately am not as well versed in the signage package, just because it came kind of oh, by the way, while you're there, here, why don't you talk about this, which is no problem at all, but staff report can fill those holes in a lot more clearly than I can, so. So I guess those are essentially the requests we have for this evening. If you'd like more information, I do have some preliminary building elevations that we can look at, or just different drawings of the building itself. But I think the drawing we have on the screen, though, is the key, you know, with the greatly reduced footprint and then the setbacks here. Hopefully, you'll agree with us in that we're not really making a huge impact on the right-of-way with the massive building, so.
Thank you, Pat. Any questions for Pat? So I do have a question.
Sure.
So our curb line on JFK is at 827 and change. Our building, first floor is at 825, so 42 foot to top of steel, and then, so you've got really 40 foot from curb line, right, where the majority of your cars are at, in theory, right?
Well, from the top of curb, we're down almost 3 feet.
Right, so,
So we've got, if you measure it from there, then we're actually a foot under
right,
how we could consider it, yes.
yeah, okay. And that's part of the reason why I'm assuming, shifted it down that way as well, to try to just lower the
It is.
stature of the building.
You know, it's no secret, I mean, credit unions like to have a presence, and their building is their presence, and they do like to be seen from distances, so obviously the taller you get, the farther you can see it and all this other stuff. But the thing is, by the time this ground slopes down, it's so much higher than, say, US 20, for example, you can still hopefully see some of the backside of this building, which is one of the goals.
Right.
Hopefully they can still see the backside of this building, but yet minimize the impact of the right-of-way right next to it on JFK. So there was a lot of that balancing act going on.
Okay. Thank you, Pat. We'll tell you what, at this point, we'll open it up then for public input, if there is any pertaining to this request. Seeing none, I will close it to public input.
No need to rebut.
Yeah, any rebuttal, Pat?
No thanks.
All righty. Sheena?
Yes, thank you. Sheena Moon, Associate Planner. So as the applicant articulated, they're making two requests for amendments to the existing PUD. They are specifically for the maximum height allowed, as well as the sign regulations for the property. The PUD was originally established in 1989. It was amended in 1999 for the freestanding sign to allow that on the property, and amended in 2018 for the development of an outlot, which actually never came to fruition. But important to note that this PUD was originally established for department store use. And so in looking at this, we're now trying to assess parameters, right, for a different type of use. I mentioned that in that this property was originally one parcel. And now, as mentioned by the applicant, they are subdividing this so that that central parcel there in the image before you, where the cursor is the new location, and where the shaded red area is, that is essentially the property that we're looking at here. So again, the PUD amendment for the height allowance up to 50 feet, the way that the draft ordinance is written right now, or the draft amendment is written right now, that height amendment would be allowed for the entire PUD area, which is outlined in blue in this image before you. So important to note that the language included in there does allow that for the entire area, not just for the Collins Community Credit Union site. Whereas the signage request is specific to the Collins piece of this property. That's the way it's currently been drafted. And just a little bit of clarification on the signage piece. So this building, while Collins will be obviously the owner and the primary tenant, it is intended to have multiple tenants. And the code currently would allow 100 square feet per tenant with street frontage. And so they're essentially asking to allow more signage for them as a primary tenant. And not necessarily allow their intention is not to allow the additional 100 square feet per additional tenant, is what they've articulated to staff. All in all, staff has, public notices were sent out for this project. We have not received any input from the public, any opposition or support. We do believe that in general, this is in keeping with other resident or other commercial and retail development within the area of this PUD. And with that, staff is available to answer any specific questions that the commission may have.
Thank you, Sheena. So the ask is for 50 feet, right? The height, that as it's currently written.
Correct.
And the signage is for 100 square. We're asking to exceed the 100 square feet, is that right?
Yes, so they're asking to exceed that, that's correct. And then they're asking essentially, if you look at the sign package included, they're essentially asking up to a maximum of 500 aggregate square feet of wall signage. This is separate from the pylon signage. This is specific to wall signage.
This is specific to
Yes,
building signage.
yes, I want to
Okay,
articulate
okay, okay.
that. For their building specifically, not to exceed 250 square feet for each sign is what they have requested.
Sure, okay. Okay, thank you. Any additional questions for staff?
So the new sign number 1 is replacing the pylon that's there now?
So it would not be in the same location as the current pylon. The code does, the pylon that you're seeing, yeah, as you see in the image here now, number 1 is the location for this proposed new pylon. This pylon as presented here does meet the current C3 general commercial signage allowances. And so if you pull up the site, Travis, please, you can see a little bit of a shadow you see that there? Yes, thank you, where the existing pylon is. So this pylon would be located on the one in the package would be on the Collins Community Credit Union site. And again, the way this ordinance is drafted, and this is in keeping with the previous, iterations of this ordinance, outside of the request for the additional wall signage, the default would be all other signage would refer to the C3 general commercial allowances for signage.
So the sign that's currently on the blue hatched area, if it advertised Collins Credit Union, would be an off-premise sign?
It technically is off-premise signage, yes.
Well, hang on a minute, I don't think that's Pat, that's not the final location of the new sign, right? And we're not even,
No, if you drive by there tonight, it would say Collins Community Credit Union coming soon.
Yeah.
And those are just temporary skins that were put in the old sign, just as kind of a,
right.
hey, here's what's up and coming. That sign is going to be removed. And then more of the monument style sign, if you will,
Yeah.
with the 2 columns and the signs between it will be about in the middle of this site.
Thanks, Pat.
So yeah, that one's going to go away.
And that sign's going to be
Compliant.
compliant.
Yes, as presented here, that is compliant.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Any other questions for the staff at this point? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I do have one quick question. If, on this other lot that Collins isn't building on, then the height would go with that lot also?
Yes, just to be clear, the way that this is drafted currently, the building height allowance of up to 50 feet does cover the entire PUD area, which would include that lot, that parking lot area, essentially everything outlined in blue, the whole area you're seeing there. Whereas the signage, the wall signage allowance that they're requesting is specific to Zone B, which is the Collins Community Credit Union portion of this PUD, that property. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and Zone A signage. So again, in this image here, we've articulated it in 2 different zones. Zone A would default to the C3 general commercial signage regulations.
Okay.
Well, I'll make a motion that we recommend approval of the request to increase the building height for this PUD for this particular development to 50 feet and to allow for up to 500 square feet of wall signage for the Collins Community Credit Union building.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Jason, if you would take roll, please.
I guess we need to clarify that we're approving the amended PUD.
We're recommending improvement, yeah.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what Travis is articulating is just, we want to make sure it's clear on the record that this is an amendment to the PUD, to recommend the amendment to the PUD, which I think I believe we're on the same page there, but just to clarify.
Rich, are you stating that the
Yes.
motion is to approve as submitted by the applicant?
Yes.
Okay.
Christ,
Aye.
Kemp,
Aye.
Russell,
Aye.
Zucchero,
Aye.
Mulligan.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. We'll go to city council on April 18th. All right, so maybe for those of you that came in late, we are not going to be hearing item number 2, which is the rezoning of the property at the end of Wolf Road due to the request of the applicant late in the day. So with that, we're going to move on to our last item here, a text amendment by the city of Dubuque regarding the amending the Unified Development Code, section 161513 for signs in the historic districts.
So, city is essentially seeking to correct an omission. We realized that in our bulk sign regulations for historic districts, residential zones were not included. And in speaking with our former assistant planner, Guy Hemingway, he had no knowledge of that being intentionally excluded, that he felt it was an accidental omission. As you'll see, it includes nearly all the other types of zones. They would be allowed to have signs in historic districts, and the reason we have separate requirements for historic districts is to preserve the historic character of those areas. They're typically smaller. They're subject to historic review by our assistant planner, Chris Happ-Olson, who's a historic preservation expert. So we received an inquiry from a sign contractor regarding an apartment complex at 201 West 17th Street that you see before you. The owner of the property was interested in putting up a small freestanding sign to advertise the apartments there. And when we reviewed the regulations, we realized that technically would not be allowed. They would only be allowed the very small 2 square foot nameplate sign that's allowed everywhere. So we wanted to remedy that by including residential zones within the historic district allowed signage. And what we're proposing is the same scale of signage that you find for OR office residential zones, where property would be allowed up to 8 square feet for either a freestanding or a projecting or a wall-mounted sign, and an additional wall nameplate sign of up to 6 square feet. We felt that would be adequate to advertise these properties in historic districts. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Okay. So with that, I'll open it up for any public input pertaining to the text amendment specific to signage. All right, very good. We'll close it as well. staff report. I'm not sure if there's anything else to share specific to that.
That was it.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. All right, well, with that, any additional questions for staff? Okay, so I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of the text amendment to the Unified Development Code, Section 161513 for signs in historic districts.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Kemp,
Aye.
Norton,
Aye.
Russell,
Aye.
Zaquero, Christ,
Aye.
Mulligan.
Aye. All right, motion passes. That will go before City Council on the 18th as well. All right, so with that, we're going to move on to any items from the public. Anybody with any comments? Okay. Any items from the commission to discuss?
I do have one based on the canceled item on our agenda. Does the city need to send notices to people outside of our city limits for rezonings?
We do notice within 200 feet of the property. In this instance, for example, well, without getting into specifics on a project, for example's sake, if they do a Asbury, for example, we do notify within 200 feet, whether within the city limits or outside of the city limits.
So the corporate limits don't matter as far as the notification goes.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Anything else from the commission? Okay, anything from staff?
We have none.
We have none. All right.
Chair, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn. We have a second. Jason, if you would.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.